These bioethicists from Western Michigan University say it's morally obligatory to genetically modify Lone Star ticks using CRISPR to intentionally spread alpha-gal syndrome among the population.
Nearly 500,000 Americans are living with alpha-gal syndrome.
They call it a moral bioenhancement to stop people from eating meat. So that's literally bioterrorism, published in a major journal.
That is beyond sinister. That is so evil. Many of you out there are undoubtedly already following Nick. He is an epidemiologist of great repute. He works with the McCullough Foundation as well as now with the Wellness Company. He has authored over 25 scientific papers, really broad range of topics. Let's talk about alpha-gal. And for people out there, I'm going to get into the real, or I want you to get into the real basics of it for a few minutes in terms of explaining exactly what alpha-gal is. People think that you get, quote, infected with alpha-gal. That's not the case. Alpha-gal, as my understanding, is a sugar molecule that is naturally occurring in almost all red meat, beef, pork, veal, and in a large number of animal byproducts, specifically dairy products. So it's my understanding that alpha-gal is a sugar molecule, and this infection or whatever it is that comes from the tick bite causes you to develop an allergic reaction to that molecule, and therefore you have an allergic reaction to anything, any food product, primarily red meat and dairy, that contains that. And that allergic reaction can be anything from as simple as breaking out into hives, a rash, itching, to full-blown anaphylaxis, the way that you would have from a bee sting or something else, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, gastrointestinal distress, those sorts of things. So let's talk first about, exactly, did I get that right? Do I understand really what alpha-gal, the syndrome, is? How common is it? Has there been an increase, and where it's coming from?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. That's exactly how it works. The tick basically installs large amounts while it bites you, while it's burrowed in your skin, large amounts of the alpha-gal sugar-like molecule, and that sensitizes your immune system to when you're exposed to it next, say from red meat or other types of meat. You have an autoimmune or immune reaction, immune attack to that alpha-gal, and then, you could suffer anaphylaxis, hives, or other debilitating symptoms. So, it's about 500,000 Americans are currently suspected to have alpha-gal syndrome, so a large number, but it's increasing quite dramatically. In fact, just since 2013, a recent study found alpha-gal syndrome has increased by 10,000%. So something's going on that is driving this dramatic increase.
Yeah, so that was my understanding, is that this isn't a brand new thing. It had existed before, but the numbers were in the tens of thousands of people total over a period of a couple decades. And just recently, I think in the past 2-3, it's gone from 100,000 cases to all of a sudden 500,000 cases. Correct?
Yeah.
And so, to what do we know to what that is being attributed?
Well, there's many suspicions. There's the group that says it's climate change and deer migration. And then there's the group that says it's something nefarious. Now, I'm on the side of something nefarious because it has not been properly investigated. And there's 5 reasons. The first reason is we do have reports of some farmers finding tick boxes or mysterious aircraft over their property, dropping things, or even airdrops of mysterious things. Now, those can't be fully verified, but regardless, we have to take it seriously. Second, there's a peer-reviewed paper published in the journal Bioethics. These bioethicists from Western Michigan University say it's morally obligatory to genetically modify Lone Star ticks using CRISPR to intentionally spread alpha-gal syndrome among the population. They call it a moral bioenhancement to stop people from eating meat. So that's literally bioterrorism, published in a major journal. And then we had another ethics professor at NYU. He was talking to the World Economic Forum, I believe, and he said the same thing. He said they want to intentionally use human engineering to spread these ticks and give people alpha-gal. And then we have Gates Foundation giving $7.6 million to a company called Flitter to literally make a GMO self-limiting cattle ticks. And then lastly, we had the U.S. Army release over 270,000 radioactive labeled ticks into the wild in the 1960s, including 170,000 Lone Star ticks. So there's evidence that something bioterror related may be going on.
Yeah, I'm with you. And again, I am, really don't like to think of myself as a quote conspiracy theorist, but I think the receipts are stacking up such that you'd be led to believe that there is something going on here. Going back for a second to that published study from, or I don't know if it's a study, an article from Michigan, to refer to this as we are morally obligated to modify ticks to instill alpha-gal. That is beyond sinister. That is so evil to me. It is so absolutely psychotic, sociopathic. The idea that you believe that you have the right, let alone the obligation, to instill a medical condition in the population that could kill them. Frankly, I mean, anaphylaxis is no, joking matter. There's no such thing as a mild anaphylaxis. I mean, it is full out. You could have, a life-altering event from this, but that they are so sure that their thoughts about climate change or meat consumption or whatever it is that they should have that they have the right to instill this. I mean, it's absolutely pure evil. And I think also, as you did touch on this issue with Bill Gates, has a long and storied past of wanting to use insects, mosquitoes, ticks, other things, to carry as vectors everything from vaccines. He talked about wanting to create masses of flying syringes that would, bite people and inject them with vaccines to counter the vaccine hesitancy thing. And then again, I'm like you, I live, as I said, in Colorado a lot of the time, and I've heard these reports from ranchers. I live out in the hinterlands, people saying they're finding boxes of insects. Again, I have not personally verified it. I've heard everyone from Joe Rogan to others talk about it. I haven't seen it validated, but enough people are saying it that it makes me wonder if this is true. So talk a little bit about, how would we work this up? How would we investigate this?
Yeah, well, the first step, who investigates bioterrorism? That would be the FBI. And so, they caught Vincent Munster, NIH virologist, last week. They arrested him for smuggling in 113 vials of pathogens from the Congo, including monkeypox, chickenpox, and human DNA. So they did a good job there. I would hope they could do a good job and try and identify any actors, state actors, foreign actors, or even domestic actors that may be committing bioterrorism by releasing ticks, either modified or natural, to give people alpha-gal syndrome, given that we now have these professors literally calling for it. And, there's other things with ticks, though. There's other things with ticks, Lyme disease, right? And I think that's important. We got to touch on Lyme disease. So there's like 500,000 Americans diagnosed with it every year. It's a bacteria transmitted by a deer tick. And so, but it doesn't kill you. It just can cause debilitating symptoms if left untreated. If you don't get prompt antibiotics within, at least a week, it could progress and start to infect other organs. So, but what's interesting about Lyme disease is it originated in 1975 in Lyme, Connecticut, 10 miles from the Plum Island military bioweapons lab. 10 miles from the Plum Island lab, where they were literally doing weaponized tick research. Okay, so we do suspect, and even RFK suspects it, that Lyme disease likely originated from a military bioweapons lab on Plum Island. Because, I mean, what else could explain it just kind of exploding, this mysterious arthritis like illness that they were finding 10 minutes from the biolab? And so, it just brings into question how many of these diseases are natural and how many are man-made.
Well, let me tell you, as a physician, I can tell you, Lyme disease, the burden, the disease burden, and the suffering, the morbidity from Lyme disease is huge. As you said, if you get bitten by a tick that's carrying this rickettsial disease, the Lyme, then you can treat it with antibiotics if you know right away. If it's untreated or undertreated, in other words, you're not on antibiotics for long enough period of time, it affects multiple organ systems, can cause debilitating arthritis, can cause issues in the brain, the heart. Almost every organ system can be affected by Lyme disease. And the idea that this is potentially, it smacks so happened in COVID, right? All of a sudden you have the outbreak of this novel thing, back in 76, just like with this outbreak of coronavirus that happens, right down the road from a virology institute that we then later find out has been manipulating that very virus. Same thing with this Plum Island. We know they were manipulating tick-borne diseases, and then all of a sudden we have Lyme. It would be truly interesting to find out if we could ever get access to those classified documents to prove that, once again, Lyme was created by our own government. Just to clarify again, the alpha-gal syndrome requires the Lone Star tick. The Lyme disease requires a deer tick, so they are different in terms of the insect, but once again being manipulated. And here's before we cut to the break and come back with other things, I feel obligated as a clinician who has taken care of a lot of people with tick bites and has had a lot of tick bites myself. Here's what you do if you get people. Number one, do not believe everything you read with regard to, Vaseline and lighters and matches and all that other crap. Get a pair of handy tweezers, put the tweezers right at the skin where the head of the tick has entered your skin. Grab it firmly and steadily, with steady pressure, pull back on that tick to get the head out. Do not pull from the body. You got to get the head out. It will feel like there's some resistance because there is. Its pesky little teeth have dug in, has little barbs on it. Pull that tick out. Then do not flush that tick down the toilet. Take a piece of Scotch tape and tape that tick to an index card. Write the date on it, where you were bitten on your body, and throw it in a drawer. Then, if 10 days, 2 weeks later, you develop a fever, a rash, unusual symptoms, you can take that handy tick to your doctor where they can actually test it. They can test it to find out if that tick is infected. It comes back way faster than their own blood titers. So super easy. No reason to panic, no reason to walk around, fearful of ticks, no reason to avoid hiking or being in the backwoods or wherever else because you're afraid of a tick bite. Simply be cautious. If you get bitten by one that embeds, do what I just said, save the tick, and in all likelihood, you'll be fine.